Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 2019 version of the Tucumur Town Meeting. This is the meeting at which everyone in the room who's holding a voting card becomes a legislator. I'd like to first identify the emergency exit locations. The fire chief has asked me to locate them, to identify them in the corners, two in the corners, and the one main exit behind us. Looks like a good crowd tonight, so we're looking forward to a good meeting. Would you please stand, if able, for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please welcome the Reverend Kevin Van Brunt, pastor of the Melville Village Community Church and the executive director at Camp Sentinel, for tonight's invocation.
Well, hello, neighbors. Good evening. It's good to see everyone. Easter is just in a few weeks, and I'd like to pause this time of year just to prepare my heart. And wherever you stand spiritually in your personal faith journey, sometimes fasting or giving up things helps us to remember what we appreciate of what we have. The words of Pope Francis reminds us of things that we can fast from. Do you want to fast this Lent? Fast from hurting words and say only kind words. Fast from sadness and be filled with gratitude. Fast from anger and be filled with patience. Fast from pessimism and be filled with hope. Fast from worries and trust in God. Fast from complaints and contemplate simplicity. Fast from pressures and be prayerful. Fast from bitterness and fill your heart with joy. Fast from selfishness and be compassionate to one another. Fast from grudges and be reconciled. Fast from words so you can be silent and we can listen. This evening, may we be open to others' ideas and beliefs, having respect for our differences and not threatened by them. May we be a kind force of replacing fear and insight, helping us to be patient and kind as we talk. May strength, real strength, always find compromise, working together. May we have common ground, enabling us to move forward with shared purpose. And may we see what's truly important, what unites us, focusing on this while being open to hear others' ideas and beliefs. As we gather to make decisions for the future of our community, may we only use our best skills and best judgment. May we always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our neighbors. Amen.
I'd like to ask all members, past and present, of the U.S. Armed Forces, the Merchant Marine, active duty, guards and reserves, wax and waves, please stand and let us recognize you. Thank you for your service. Registered voters who have checked in with the ballot clerks should have received a voting card to be held up and displayed when casting a vote. The laws of the state of New Hampshire specify that only registered Tufton Borough voters may vote on the issues. With those guests who are not registered voters, please identify yourself by raising your hand. Thank you. I would ask those of you who are sitting next to those people to make sure they don't commit a felony. Our supervisors have asked, of the checklist, have asked me to remind you that they cannot register new voters at the town meeting. Cell phones. Please turn them off, set them to silence. If you do take a call, you must take a call or must make a call. Please move to the aisles outside and take the call there. Thank you. And speaking of thank you, I would thank you, Kyle Williams, wherever you are. Kyle? Where's Kyle? There he is, way back there. Kyle, thank you very much for your expertise and for your sound system. We appreciate it. And thank you very much to the Tufton Borough Central School janitorial group, who have done such a great job setting up the hall tonight. They came in late this afternoon, washed the floor, set up 320, 400 odd seats, and they did a great job, and we appreciate it. The rules of this meeting. The rules are based on guidelines provided by the New Hampshire Municipal Association with modifications by the moderator. They are not Robert Rules of Order or any other established parliamentary procedure. The moderator's rules or decisions can always be changed or overruled by the voters at town meeting. For your reference, these rules are printed in the 2019 town report on page 29. These are my moderator's rules. All discussion must go through the moderator. Only registered Tufton Borough voters are empowered to speak at the Tufton Borough town meeting. However, the moderator may ask for permission from the meeting to allow a non-voter to speak. Unless otherwise directed by the moderator, speak only once to an article until everyone who wants to speak to that article has had the opportunity. Any amendment to a motion should be submitted in writing. Only one amendment to a motion will be allowed on the floor at any one time. If there's a timely motion to end debate, the moderator will ask for a 2/3 majority to agree. But even with such a vote, anyone already standing in a microphone will be allowed to speak. A motion to reconsider a previous vote can only be made by a voter who voted on the prevailing side of the vote to be reconsidered. And finally, before the end of the evening, we will act upon all articles in the warrant. To those who would speak to us tonight, please go to a microphone. There's a microphone located at each of the 3 aisles in the main section here. Please go to the microphone and clearly announce your name before speaking. Please don't shun the microphone. If you want to be understood, it's important to be heard clearly. The right to know law now requires the minutes of town meeting to include the names of all who make a motion or second a motion. Please help our town clerk comply with this law. Finally, we have a great deal to discuss tonight. Therefore, I ask all of you to be brief and to stick to the subject matter of the warrant article under consideration. And remember, please, that we are all neighbors and members of the same community. We're here to discuss policies and proposals, but not personalities. I would very much like to welcome Attorney Barbara Bowman to our meeting tonight. She's here tonight in the capacity of Town Council. Welcome, Barbara. Sue Wingate would like to say a few words about the upcoming Town Cleanup Day on Saturday, April 27th.
There's a sign-up sheet outside just after the doorway. You can sign up for what section of road you want to take care of. If you can't do it on the day that we have set up, let us know, and please do it some other time by putting it back a week after we have Earth Day. Hopefully things will have dried out by then, and you'll be able to see the trash better. Thank you.
Yesterday, at the beginning of what is the town meeting, 556 voters, either by absentee ballot or in person, voted to elect new officers for the coming year. I would like, when I call your name, to please rise and be recognized for accepting this responsibility. The selectman for a 3-year term, William Markison. Two budget committee members were elected. Barry Ennis and Bob Tev. Trustee of the trust funds for a 3-year term, Chris Sawyer. Cemetery trustee for a 3-year term, Carol Bush. Library trustee for a 3-year term, Marianne Murray. And supervisor of the checklist for a 3-year term, Marianne Markison. The 2 amendments that you voted on were both passed by significant majorities, the zoning amendments. I would like to ask Jack Whitmer if he would report on the Governor Wentworth Regional School District election.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In the school board elections, Bridget Edwards from Effingham was running unopposed, so she won 2,204 votes. In the 3-way vote for the at-large seat that was up because of Bernie Brown's retirement, Krista Hebert outpolled Richard Parent and Richard Surratt, 1370 to 503 to 605. Randy Walker was re-elected as moderator. The three new contracts for the support staff, the teachers agreement, and the administrators agreement both passed by wide margins. The turf field warrant article where we put $60,000 a year away for the turf field replacement in about 6 years, that also passed by significant margins. And repair and improvement article, which we have each year, passed 2,091 votes to 804. The operating budget also passed 1625 to 1258. And the 2 petition warrant articles, one to create an independent budget committee and one to adopt a tax cap, both failed significantly. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Jack. Are we ready to consider the articles? Yes, we are. I'm going to read the article, and then we'll discuss it. We're on Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,862,000 to renovate and expand the current library building. Said project will be funded as follows. Withdrawal of $355,500 $500 from the existing library capital reserve fund and $1,733,500, excuse me, from the library capital donations funds and pledges, with $333,000 to be raised from taxation. This special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, paragraph 6, and will not lapse until the library expansion and renovations are completed or by December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. A majority vote is required. This article is recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0, and by the Budget Committee, 5-0, with 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I move the question is read.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wait a minute, thank you.
The selectmen are in favor of this project. The Gordon Hunt and his committee have worked very, very hard, and I would like to say thank you to Gordon and his supporters. Gordon, would you like to speak?
Good evening. This is the third time I've had the opportunity to talk to you folks about the library building program. And every year I convince myself, I'm not going to write anything out because I know the subject pretty well, and I work on the assumption everybody else does pretty well, and you don't. And I know if I don't write things down, I'm going to forget them. So bear with me, it's not a very long, convoluted speech, but it has some points to be made. Both times before I sat and wrote out speeches, I was convinced of the merits of the warrant articles. That was then, and this is now. Both times previously, I was acutely aware that as much as many people believe the merits and needs of the plans, they represented large, long-term financial commitments by the town. Bonds or bank loans were involved, with all the accompanying costs involved. As I just said, that was then. Tonight with this warrant article, we're dealing with what I can only describe as a game changer and frankly an incredible opportunity for our community. The efforts of many people and the incredible generosity of one couple in particular who have made pledges, outright gifts, or supported the Capital Reserve Fund efforts in the past. We are at a point where we have in hand approximately 83% of the funds needed to complete this project. The dollars voted on this evening represent the balance to do the job. The warrant article reached $333,000. It will not be $333,000 because we passed that plateau a little while back. Plus, we are earning interest every month on money that we have in our Fidelity accounts, money market accounts, etc. It will be less than what is being proposed. I'm sorry. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, I apologize. So what are we going to get for our money? Well, we make more room for people, which is our real problem, more so than just for books. We're going to have a fully equipped, expanded meeting space that can be used by the many groups who use it now, and as well as those who can't because our present room is not large enough. We're going to have dedicated areas for the adult, teen, and children's collections, as well as quiet study and workspaces. We're going to have a modern facility. We'll have expanded access to today's technology, while still being designed in a manner that it can be evolved for different purposes for the future. We're going to have improved accessibility and safety, both now and in the new section as well as the old sections of the building. Because of course right now we are not ADA compliant in our old building. And finally, along with the planned renovations to the old section, we're going to have a both comfortable and energy efficient space for all of us to use, to learn, and to grow. Now, I spent the better part of my adult life as a small business owner making decisions large and small on a daily basis that would affect how successful my business was going to be. It taught me to be, on one hand, be very cautious, but at the same time to recognize a great deal when I saw how it was going to help my business grow. This warrant article is one of these great opportunities that we rarely, if ever, see. Please remember, we're not just building for today, but for decades of the town's needs yet to come. The Board of Selectmen, the Capital Improvement Committee, and the Budget Committee have all voted in support of this plan. I feel it's time to get this job done so we can move on into the future needs of the community. And with that, thank you very much.
Are there other comments or questions regarding Article 4? Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris Sawyer. I'm actually trustee of the trust funds. I have a couple of questions that I would like to have answered. Number one, how much has been spent so far on the library in the previous years, year to date? Can anybody give me that answer?
Go ahead, no, answer the...
We're talking about the present time.
I'm talking about, we've had a capital reserve fund for the library for a long time. And out of that capital reserve fund, can you tell me how much has been spent on the continuous library?
I do not have a cumulative number for past years. I can tell you that so far for this project, sorry, Wendy, microphone.
How much for this year? You can go ahead and say what now.
This year we have spent our first installment for our architects and engineering fees is $16,100.
16,100?
Yes.
Okay. So that's for this year, for this particular plan.
Which is the only plan on the dock.
Right. But we've been spending money in the capital reserve fund, the library capital reserve fund, that we've been putting money away for. So as of right now, that's 16,000. So before that, it was approximately 100,000. So we've already spent 100,000 from 2015, 98,500. So my question right now is, how did you come up with a number? Because I just got the February numbers. The capital reserve fund right now for the library, here's the number. $425,181.97. This is what is in the library capital reserve fund at this particular time. I'm confused as to why we're not using $425,191.87. Our market value right now, if we cashed it in, would be $433,211.85. So I'm just curious as to why we're not using all of that money towards the library plan. Can anybody answer that for me?
Will, do you have a response?
Yes. I believe it was in December, we made a commitment.
Just get closer to the phone.
In December of 2018, we made a commitment to do the full architectural drawings, the full plans for the library at that time. And the difference between the number that's in here and the number that you have is money that's already committed to completing the plans.
Okay, so basically, so that's taken away. So when you add up what's already been done and what's already been used and what you committed to, it's actually not going to be 1.862. We've actually spent more than that on this final project by the time it's all said and done. It's going to be about $2,300,000. The only other question I really have is, how can we be guaranteed as taxpayers that, say some of these pledges don't go through, how are we going to be guaranteed to not be liable for that? Is there going to be some kind of guarantee on that? Because, I understand people make pledges, but things happen. Is there any guarantee that the taxpayers, that we won't have to be liable for that if those pledges don't come through?
Go ahead.
With this warrant article, we're making a commitment of no more than $333,000 in current tax money. So anything beyond that, there is no authorization for the town to spend.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, if it doesn't go through and say they're partially through, say they start construction next year.
Question asked, question answered, I think, Chris.
Okay, that's fine. And the only other thing I'm going to ask is, if this, for some strange reason, which I find highly unlikely, if this warrant article didn't pass tonight, is the library in fear of closing? Well, it's closed if, for some, would it close if it didn't pass tonight?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Good.
perfect. That's it.
Sorry.
Locking and roll, yes, go ahead. Please use the microphone.
I just thought I'd give you some updated numbers, by the way, whereas Chris was talking about the town capital reserves, which we were showing at the number she said $425,181. We have a certificate deposit of $223,204.
Please.
We have a money market fund that has presently $157,745. And we have a fidelity fund made up primarily of United States Treasuries, which is $613,924. And we have confirmed campaign pledges of $233,800. As to the possibility of people not redeeming their pledges, when the Hillsborough Town Hall was built, and a large part of that money was generated by pledges, every single dollar was redeemed. I'm standing here tonight, I'm looking across this room, and I'm seeing a lot of people who have already committed to their pledges. And I'm standing here also saying, those people who choose not to, I will make good.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Barry Ennis, and I have a few questions and concerns about the warrant article. And basically, I wrote them down, so I probably couldn't remember them all. We have $1.5 million cash, as far as I can decipher from this. It is $1.5 million in pledges and donations that we have. And you want $335,000 more on top of that. And my questions are, if you have $1.5 million, and you say to the taxpayers, that's not enough, we need more. It's kind of, so you've got $1.5 million to do this, but you need more, you want more. And I think you have to take into consideration all the taxpayers in town, not just the taxpayers that really want a library addition. Those that use the library all the time, there's an awful lot of people in town that don't use the library, don't plan on using the library. I haven't been inside the building in 20 years. So there's a lot of people in town that are living paycheck to paycheck. They're one disaster away from falling behind in all their payments and stuff. This extra $337,000 or whatever it is, which it's going to make the budget be somewhere between 8 and 12% more than what they had last year for taxes. That's tough on them. They're on low income, fixed income. They're decent people. They work hard. They pay for their own health insurance. They go without it already because they can't afford it. All these little increases in the budget, this being one, it's really tough on them. They're struggling to make ends meet now. My father's 90 years old. He'd love to live the rest of his life in his house here in Tuftonboro. Can he? If the budget keeps going up, taxes keep going up, it's rough. He's 90. I'd like to see him live to be 100 and stay in his house for 10 more years. But if things keep going the way they're going, he may not be able to do that. You know, you've been trying to get a new library on Anderson for 15 years. The present library seems to be functioning well. It's been running for 15 years at that. It's a place of assembly. Has it ever exceeded the limit of the number of people that it's rated for as a place of assembly? So that we need more room?
Let him finish, please.
Okay, I don't know. That's a question. I'm asking that question. So I have concerns about that for a lot of people that don't want a library, don't use a library. They're struggling with their tax bill now. They're struggling to make their mortgage payments. If their car breaks down, what do? Fix the car, be late on the payment for the house. There's a lot of them out there in this town, and we have to take them into consideration. I was sitting up back doing a little doodle, and I took my little voter's card here, and I drew an X on the back. Yeah, I drew an X on the back of it. And that X, if you start at the bottom right of the X, it says $1 million. If you follow that line up to the top left-hand corner, it says $2 million. If you go to the other side, on the bottom right, it says basic needs. Follow that up, goes to extra wants. If you follow those two lines, when you get to the point where the 1 million line intersects the basic needs lines, that's $1.5 million. And I would think for $1.5 million, you could lower some of the needs, adjust things down a little bit, and meet $1.5 million and build a beautiful facility for $1.5 million and not impact everybody in town, especially those who can't afford it, who don't want it. You've got to take them all into consideration. I mean, the library people, you guys have done a great job. You've got $1.5 million. That's amazing.
I think you've made your point.
Yeah, so think about that and say, do we really need the extra $300,000 now? Can we do without it? Could you raise a little more money in time to take care of some things you might not be able to do right now? Think about everything. Thank you.
Carl?
Carla Lutens from Tufton Borough here.
Get right close to the microphone, Carl.
Okay, Carla Lutens from Tufton Borough here. Back in 2014 is when I first started looking at the library. Myself and a number of others here in the audience were on the Library Building Advisory Committee. And that was when I learned that prior to that time, 2 studies had already been done on our library, documenting the needs. We also know, as Gordon spoke, that it is not ADA compliant. And without being ADA compliant, we're not eligible for any grants should they come available. That's something, it's a safety issue. We must address that. But in 2015, we were going to build across the street from the current library. We came in with a majority vote, not the supermajority. So I think the trustees have done a great job. We had a member of the community that came forward and said, please look at additions and renovations again. The wetlands issue was addressed. We found out that what we believed all along was wrong. We are able to build and add on the current spot. So rather than the large building we planned across the street, which we all loved, at least us so-called library people, I think the trustees did their due diligence. They looked at this new idea and came up with something that is good for everybody. It's scaled down, but my concern is, this isn't about wants, this is about needs, and I'm worried that every year we delay, the increase in building costs continues to rise. It used to be just 3%. Now I'm hearing things up to 7, maybe 8%. So now is the time to get this done. I think it's a very doable project. It's not just a warehouse for books.
It's a reference center, cultural hub of our community. And if you have any questions, if you haven't been in the library, if you don't know what it does, please look at Christie's report on page 19 in or page 98 in your book here. It clearly lays out, well, the needs continue to increase, so do our patrons. So we're doing very well, but we need people's space. Thank you.
The moderator just introduced me, Mill Road. The master plan survey results showed that 67 taxpayers, not voters mind you, thought that the library was inadequate. When the Board of Selectmen chose to bring this warrant article forward, I presume they followed the opinion of those 67 taxpayers and ignored the 900 and some odd others who thought that the library was either adequate or excellent. Now, as voters tonight, we also have the opportunity to ignore 900 and some odd taxpayers as well. I think we have enough money on hand to build enough of a facility to work, but feel free to ignore your fellow taxpayers. Thank you.
Are there any more questions or comments regarding Article 4? Joe?
And it's about time to raise the microphone up. I was on the budget committee when they first brought up building the library, and the idea of building the library for $2.5 million. And it was voted on that year. Has it been 15 years, I think. And I was for it then, and we're not voting on something for now, it's for the future of our town. And I would like I think really that nobody sitting here is going to change their mind tonight, how they're going to vote, based on what anybody's going to say. So I'd like to move the question.
The question is moved. I think, Joe, I'm going to delay that a little bit. We'll come back to that, but I think it's too early to move the question. Thank you. Susan?
Susan Meeks, Ledge Hill Road. I have what I think might be a compromise that might make everybody comfortable. Just to change the wording a little bit of the warrant article. Because some of the concerns that I have heard are, how do we know if they won't use our tax money first and save their donations for other things? How do we know that? How do we know that the pledges are going to be covered? If we make a few simple changes here, I think we can make everybody feel comfortable. So, where it says said project will be funded as follows, insert first by the withdrawal of $355,000 blah blah money from the Capital Reserve Fund, plus any accrued interest and income. And then second, $1,173,500 from the library capital donations funds and pledges. And then insert, any additional donations will reduce the amount to be raised from taxation. And then insert in third, with a maximum of $333,000 to be raised from taxation. So all the dollar amounts are the same as what's proposed, and people are comfortable that the sequence is going to happen, and it's not going to be more money spent.
Barbara has suggested, Susan and all, that the wording you propose may have some problems because the DRA requires to be sum certain in order to set the tax rate when the time is appropriate. And that's not a sum certain that you've described.
The maximum is the $1,862,000.
Does anybody have any objection to hearing from Barbara Lohman, our town council, to clarify what we've just said? Any objections? Go ahead, Barbara.
You're correct that the total amount is a sum certain. The problem is that when DRA goes to set the tax rate, we will not necessarily know what the total interest and income accrued in these funds will be, because that's a moving target. It depends on when the Board of Selectmen actually spend the money, depends on how fast the project goes. The way the article is worded, the only amount that can be raised by taxation is $330,000. So you're protected in that respect, in that that's all that can come under the tax rate. The rest of it, if there's a shortfall, for example, if some of the pledges don't come through, that doesn't change the amount that will be raised by taxation. It's still $330,000. But interjecting uncertainty as to saying, well, also the accrued interest is just not something that GRA is going to be happy with, because they need a specific dollar amount. And to the extent that there's interest that you're talking about, in addition to the figure that's in here to come out of the capital reserve and the pledge fund, that changes the amount to be raised by taxation. And that's what DRA objects to. They want a sum certain.
That number would be known by the time the tax rate is set. You would know exactly how much was there, or you would have possibly already spent it.
I'm not sure that's true, because that depends on how quickly the project is undertaken in comparison to when the tax rate is set.
You did not offer that as a motion, so I assume we're still in discussion here.
I would like to offer it as a motion, actually. I don't know, I don't quite understand what's going on.
Susan, you are making this as a motion?
Yes.
Susan has moved. I'll read the motion. And then is there a second to the motion? Steve Brunson, thank you. Susan would change the wording of the article as follows. Thanks. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,862,000 to renovate and expand the current library building. Said project will be funded as follows. First, by the withdrawal of $355,500 plus any accrued interest and income from the existing library capital reserve fund. And second, $1,173,500 from the library capital donations funds and pledges. Any additional donations will reduce the amount to be raised by taxation. And third, with a maximum of $333,000 to be raised from taxation. The special warrant article will be non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, paragraph 6, and will not lapse until the library expansion and renovations are completed by December 31st, 2023. She has bolded the areas that she's first, she's set an order here. She's bolded the addition of the words plus any accrued interest and income, and she has continued to with the first, second, third stage things, to describe an order by which the money should be spent. Is that Oh, you want me to correct? Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions on this amendment to the main motion? Who's the amendment? Let's see, just get the right.
I seconded the motion for two purposes. First of all, so we can kind of move things along. Secondly, because I think it expresses the intent that the library has anyway, so I don't envision any serious objection to the notion that we fund this in a particular order. And if we get really lucky and things go well, we may not need the last couple $100,000 anyway. So that's my point.
Selectman Albee, I'll get to you, young lady, in a minute.
Okay, I think there are a couple of issues that are already answered. We're limited to the $1,862,000 for the project. Any money that we have in the capital reserve fund that we don't spend is going to go to the benefit of the taxpayer. So if there's an additional $100,000 in the capital reserve fund at the end of this project because of interest or earnings or whatever it is, that's going to come back into our undesignated fund balance. We're also limited to spending $333,000 in tax dollars by this warrant article. One thing that the Board of Selectmen have decided, and I'll let them weigh in if you want them to, but our decision was to spend the library capital reserve money first, the library donation second, and the taxpayer money last. So if there were additional donations, if there was additional earnings made, that would have the ability to reduce the $333,000. The other thing being that if we don't include the donations at the beginning of the project being spent, the town doesn't benefit, the taxpayers aren't going to benefit. If we underspend the amount raised by donations, that amount of money is going to remain with the library trustees in whatever format they have. So I think most, and lastly, I'm in agreement with our attorney that any confusion or lack of clarity in the warrant article just throws it back at us, and I'm really not interested in revisiting this for a 16th time.
Steve Renzer, Elder Village.
You're a very patient young lady who's been waiting to get to the
She's
mic.
not speaking to this issue. I just asked her.
Okay. Go ahead.
Chip, what I heard you say is that basically the proposed amendment codifies what you've already said is the intent of the selectmen anyway. So why would there be any objection to passing? This is the expression of the community.
I think if you went all the way to the end of my comments, it's the clarity. And I'm really not interested in having DRA kick this article back because of lack of clarity. At which point we don't get to do anything. We're back here next year looking for it. We also have our pledges.
Okay, I don't think there's any substantive difference as far as the
No, and that's what I'm saying.
Barbara Loman again has suggested that you cannot withdraw an indeterminate amount from the capital reserve, but you have to withdraw a specific amount from the capital reserve. She's nodding her head, I guess I could. Are there any more questions or discussions on the amendment to the article?
Not clear what language you want removed. I'm not clear what language she would want removed.
Go ahead to the microphone, Barbara.
Anything that creates an indefinite amount. I don't have a problem with your saying the order in which the money is going to be spent, but the warrant article, if the warrant article authorizes the withdrawal of $355,500 from the capital reserve, that's all you can take out of that account. The Board of Selectmen cannot take more, all right? It has to be for a specific amount. In addition, so you can't just say, we're authorizing them, for example, to withdraw $100,000 plus interest.
I think they already have the authority.
Well, if they have the authority as agents to expend,
They do.
then you're correct. They don't need a vote, but you still have the problem of, and I don't know if they're authorized as agents to expend the donations fund, but you still need a specific amount for taxation. You can't establish, in other words, DRA, when they set the tax rate, they need to know exactly how much to raise by taxation. And in this case, it's $333,000. And they insist that the figures be definite, specific. You're not allowed to do an indefinite amount. And that's, so you've got two issues. One is the authorization to withdraw from the capital reserve. If they have that authority because they've been designated as agents to expend, we don't have to worry about that piece. If they don't have that authority, then that is the first problem. The second problem, though, and far more significant, is that DRA is going to raise and appropriate $330,000. They need to know the specific amount. So no matter what you do, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
So my suggestion is, if you want to put in the order in which you want the sources to be used, first, second, and third, there's no problem with that. The problem is when the amount is not definite from the get-go.
I was thinking that.
Are there any more questions or comments regarding the amendment to the article? If so, are you ready to vote on the amendment? Yes. Okay. Would all those who are in favor of the amendment, I'll read the amendment. I will try to emphasize the words that have changed. To see if the town will vote and raise the appropriate the sum of $1,862,000 to renovate and expand the current library building. Said project shall be funded as follows. First, by the withdrawal of $355,500, plus any accrued interest and income from the existing library capital reserve fund. And second, $1,073,500 from the library capital donations fund and pledges, and additional donations will reduce the amount to be raised from taxation. And third, with a maximum of $333,000 to be raised from taxation. The special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, paragraph 6, and will not lapse until the library expansion and renovations are completed or by December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. Would all those who are in favor of the amendment as read, please signify by raising your voting cards. Would all those who are not in favor, opposed, please signify by raising your voting cards. Clearly, the majority is against the amendment. The amendment fails. And we're now talking, once again, about the main motion, Article 4, as read. Young lady, thank you for your patience.
I'm Tessa Chandler. I live on Durgan Road. I thought maybe I could give a young person's perspective, maybe that we don't often give library. The average student in the U.S. is $37,172 in debt. We are in an era where education is the most expensive it has ever been. In that era, a library is free education. It's access to books you may need. It is access to Wi-Fi to use the web, to electronics to use the web, to a quiet study space, and even young college students to high school, middle school, elementary, even preschool students. They have educational programs. They have, book and author talks. They have so much education that is all for free. So when you're voting for this, please keep in mind the young people the future generations, that this is going to help when we're hundreds, some of us are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Overall, it was over $1 million for all of us. So please consider that, and thank you.
Questions and comments on Article 4 as written? I have been asked to move the question. Rick's going to get a chance to speak, even if the question's moved. That's part of our rules. But I would like to see a 2/3 majority, if you will, is required to move the question. All those in favor of moving the question, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed? I think the 2/3 majority standard has been met easily. Rick, you may speak.
So does that mean we cannot amend?
No. He could amend the article if he chooses to. He's got the microphone.
I don't think so.
Refer with counsel. Counsel informs me that this is entirely my call. I'd like to remind you all that I did state in my rules that even if the question was moved, someone standing at the microphone would get the opportunity to speak. I'm going to give him the opportunity to speak, and if he chooses to add an amendment, he has that right. Go ahead.
I happen to be the most hated man in the room right now. I'm sorry. I think in the effort or in a gesture of compromise, that the amount raised by taxes should be reduced by $150,000. Which would reduce the overall budget of the warrant article by $150,000. I didn't write it. It's math.
I wouldn't be able to read it.
It's not written.
It's not written.
You've got the number next to it. effectively reduce the figure to be raised by taxation by $150,000. This would reduce the total appropriation to $1,700,000. You guys got it. Good. Joe Ewing, Rick Weeks, Heather, and now I agree that it would reduce the amount on Article 4 to be raised and appropriated to $1,712,000. This figure is arrived at by reducing the amount to be raised by taxation by $150,000. Does anybody not understand what this amendment is about? If so, are there any comments or questions regarding this amendment? We have a motion. Is there a second for this amendment? Yes, we have a second. If there are no further questions and comments regarding the amendment, then we will vote on the amendment only. All those who are in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those who are opposed, in a like manner, require a simple majority, and clearly the majority does not accept the amendment and fails. We're back to Article 4. The question has been called. I will reread the article. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,862,000 to renovate and expand the current library building. Said project will be funded as follows. Withdrawal of $355,500 from the existing library capital reserve fund and $1,173,500 from the library capital donations funds and pledges, with $333,000 to be raised from taxation. This special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation for RSA 32:7, paragraph 6, and will not lapse until the library expansion and renovations are completed or by December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. A majority vote is required. All those who are in favor of Article 4 as written, please raise your hand. Please raise your voting cards. All those opposed, please indicate in a like manner. The majority certainly has it. I declare Article 4 as passed. Article 5. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $16,660,000 to update tax maps and add GIS map. Majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and by the Budget Committee 6-0. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move this article, Mr. Member.
Thank you. Is there a second? Paul Thornton, a second. Speak to the articles.
The last few decades, our tax map update has been done by hand by one of the people who truly has done service for this town, Susan Weeks. She's decided, let's give her a round. She's decided she's just we're gonna do this in a digital format. This is $16,600. We'll digitize our tax map and allow us to add to that file things like our paving study, our culvert study, our assessments, property values, etc. And it'll be available online. The annual upkeep for that would be approximately the same amount that Sue's been charging us. But this amount here is to set the process up on a digital format.
Any other questions or comments on Article 5? Seeing none? I'm sorry, Steve. Did you have a question? Well, we're going to. That's right. Seeing no comments and questions, we will put it to the vote. All those in favor of Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $16,660 to update tax maps and add GIS mapping. Majority vote required. All those in favor of Article 5, please indicate by raising your voting cards. All those opposed to Article 5. Thank you. The ayes clearly have it, and I declare Article 5 is passed. Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $285,000 for the preparation and paving of town roads. Majority vote is required. It's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and by the Budget Committee 6-0. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Bill?
So this is an annual paving article. Every year we devote an amount of money to repaving roads. This represents an increase of $25,000 over what we spent in 2018. In 2018, we also conducted a road surface management study that identified the condition of all of the pavement, all the town roads, and gave us a roadmap, if you will, going forward with recommendations on areas of pavement and types of paving treatment that should be included. Projects that we intend to do as part of this pavement in 2019 include the top coat paving of the section of Brown Road that was reclaimed and base coated in 2018, and also the items that were recommended as a part of the road surface management study, which includes full depth reclamation and base coat paving on sections of Dane Road, Federal Corner Road, and North Line Road, overlay paving for a section of Ledgeshill Road, chip seal for several sections of Ledgeshill Road, and the final schedule will be established once the weather breaks and we are able to go out and verify the current condition of all of these roads.
Any questions or comments regarding Article 6?
My name is John Bowyer. I'm curious as to why you try to keep this information away from us until we get here. Why wasn't it included either in the report by the highway department or with you people when we put this particular thing up? Why didn't you tell us what you were going to do with it? It's kind of hard to remember what you're saying 2 weeks down the way and you have nothing to fall back on. That's all I'm asking. Is there any way you can provide it to us in writing? I know there are changes that will be made, but you could at least tell us what you think you're going to do. I understand that. Thank you.
Certainly that detailed information can and will be made available. And that's a good suggestion for inclusion in the town report for future years.
Paul?
Paul Thornton, could you tell us why Sawyer Road, which is the next article, has been excluded from this article or singled out?
Yes. Several years ago, Sawyer Road came up for pavement at the time that Ospey was paving their sections of Sawyer Road. And at that time, the town of Tufton chose not to pave it. So we specifically separated out Sawyer Road preparation to give town meeting today the opportunity to vote on it again.
Any further questions or comments regarding Article 6? Seeing none, I will reread the article to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $285,000 for the preparation and paving of town roads. All those in favor of the article as read, please signify by raising your voting cards. Thank you. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Article 6 is declared passed. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the preparation of Sawyer Road for paving. Second. Any questions, comments?
Joy Perkins, Middle Road. Some years, as you said, some years ago, we voted on the paving of this portion. I was wondering who currently plows that section that's owned by Tufton Borough? Is it Ossipee or is it Tufton Borough?
Can you answer that? Can you? Very well, you answer that.
I'm going to face everybody. I'm not afraid to turn my back on the library ground. Being I hold dual citizenship in Tufton Borough and Ossipee, about what the answer is to that. The road, that 800 feet of road is in Tufton Borough now, although Ossipee claimed it for quite a while. This is kind of like a deja vu thing here, because 6 years ago, I stood up here and kind of explained what went on, the history of the road.
You can continue, but do you happen to know who's on the road right now?
Who town roads in now?
No, who plows it?
Who plows that 800 feet?
Yeah.
Ossipee plows the road.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So this is kind of deja vu, or maybe it's one of those flashbacks you told me I'd get someday. Here I am, 6 years after. I'd like to ask a few questions of the people here. I live on Sawyer Road. Does anybody else in here live on Sawyer Road? Show of hands, please. Nobody? How many people in here travel Sawyer Road at least once a day? Show of hands, please. How many travel it on a weekly basis? How many have no idea where it is? You know, this road is now in Tufton Borough. The house I built is now in Tufton Borough. But Ossipee took a lot of my money, and they took a lot of money that Tufton Borough should have rightly had in taxes and current use fees. And this road is a benefit to Ossipee, not to Tufton Borough people. We don't use it. Hardly anybody in Tufton Borough. You see how many people don't even know where it is. It's an Ossipee road, and it was an Ossipee project that Ossipee started without consulting the town of Tufton Borough whatsoever. They dug up the entire road, replaced all the culverts in the Ossipee section and the Tufton Borough section. before they said, hey, let's go see if we can get some money from them now that we've got this thing underway. They should have gone to the town prior to starting the project. If Ossipee hadn't paved that section of road, we wouldn't be here tonight thinking about paving the other section. I live in a place called the Mason Place. It was built in 1789, I think. Might be the third oldest house in town. It was built on a dirt road. It's still on a dirt road, and that's fine. My next door neighbor lives in the oldest house in town. It's on a dirt road. It's always been on a dirt road, and they love it. So for these reasons, people always point to me and say, that's the guy that doesn't want that road paved. I have never said that. I've never said those words in my life. Ossipee should pave that road. They took my money, they took your money. It's a road that services the people of Ossipee. When they want to go to the dump, if they live in Ossipee Village, they go down that road. If they want to go to Town Hall, and they live in the Granite section of town or Brown Bridge Road, they go down that road, and they go down it fast, because let me tell you. One of the reasons the town of Ossipee decided not to give me my tax money back, even though there's a state law that says it may not collect property taxes for a building not located in their town, was because Ossipee provides fire department services and road maintenance on that road, and they will continue to do forever in the future, they said. And if you don't believe me, I have it right here, signed by the 3 Ossipee selectmen that they would maintain that road in the future. Therefore, I think it's a waste of town money, Tufton Road, to spend $15,000 on a road that serves Ossipee and doesn't serve anybody in town, so to speak. I live on it. There's one other person who lives on it, but they don't care, they're not here. Vote no. If we approve this and spend the money to pave that 800 feet of road, and you want to stay in Tuftonboro and go look at that 800 feet of road, you've got to drive down 8/10 of a mile of the worst road in town for this grade because it's not maintained very well. So you go 8/10 of a mile down a dirt road to see 800 feet of new pavement. Let Ossipee take care of it. Their problem, they started it. Let them pay for it. We should not spend any money on that. Another question of the selectmen also is this came about because nobody knew where the town line was. Even though when I built the house down there, someone told me it was in Tuftonboro. I told Ossipee it was in Tuftonboro. They said, no, no, no. They lost the town line because there's a state law that you perambulate the town line every 7 years forever. And I said, when did you last do that? And they said 1955. So I said, you know, that might be longer than 7 years ago. I'm not good at math, but I think that was. And my question now is, that was done, I think 9 years ago now. Has it been done since Select Board?
Nope. And the answer is no. And the answer is also that perambulation of lines is initiated by the larger town.
It also says it has to be done by the towns every 7 years forever. That's a state law. You know, if you don't do it, in another 10 years, my house might be back in Ossipee.
Mr. Bill Rollins.
Bill Rollins, Middle Road. Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, when I was a selectman, we had an agreement with the town of Ossipee that when we plowed Durgan Road, that we would plow Durgan Road all the way down to the bottom of the hill, which was in Ossipee. In return, Ossipee would plow that 50 feet of road or whatever Barry said it was, so we wouldn't have to continue on and plow that after we came down Phineas Bridge Road. Whether it gets paved or not, I don't really care. But we do still have that agreement with the town of Ossipee. It makes it easier for both towns to do it that way.
Any other comments or questions regarding Article 7?
One more. Nothing to the pavement of the road. My question would have been to Mr. Ennis is, was he for that? Because, you know, years ago he said that. I'm just here to correct that any town of Tuftonboro taxpayer that owns property there, the fire department provides coverage, EMS coverage. That was the only thing that was here to correct. We cover any area that's in Tuftonboro, whether we have to go through Ossipee to get to that.
Thank you.
If I may speak to the article.
What's that?
May I speak to the article?
Yes, let Bill speak.
All right.
You're there.
So, a number of things have been said relative to the section of Sawyer Road that's in the town of Tuftonboro. As I recall, when Ossipee got ready to pave the road, they were prepared to pave the Tuftonboro section until somebody pointed out to them that it is illegal for them to use their funds to maintain a road in another town, which is why they didn't pave that section. We can certainly argue all day about whether it was proper or a good idea for Ossipee to pave Sawyer Road or not pave Sawyer Road. But we have received a request from a resident on that section of Sawyer Road in Tuftonboro, who I believe has small kids, and that is faced with the constant issues surrounding having a dirt road running in front of their house. I know that maintenance on that section of road that is performed by the town of Tuftonboro, not plowing in the winter, but regular maintenance during the year, the amount of maintenance that is devoted to that has increased because of the fact that it's between two sections of paved road. So we put this article on the warrant because once before the town meeting had said no to paving Sawyer Road, and although that no has long expired, we felt that it was fair to bring it to the voters of the town. It is a short section of road. It will improve the section of road. It will also improve it from a maintenance perspective for the town of Tuftonboro. So that's why it's on the warrant. Barry likes living on a dirt road. Other people, other residents of Tuftonboro that are on that road have asked to have it paved.
Go ahead. Barry's already spoken once.
Just for clarification, are we saying this is for preparation of paving or actually paving? Because the language is a little confusing in the article.
Yes, this particular article has to do with preparation for paving, and the paving would be included in the amount that we have included in the previous article.
Okay, thank you.
Barry?
Okay, a couple of things. Adam's absolutely right. Whenever there's a fire or a chili fire or something in that neighborhood, Tuftonboro Fire Department is always there first. Ossipee said that they were always there first. As a matter of fact, the selectman Maloney at the time said, you know, if Mr. Ennis's house catches fire, the Ossipee Village Fire Department will be there first. We'll be there in 5 minutes, which is 3 minutes after flashover, but we'll be there. Now, if you can get a fire truck from Ossipee Village to Sawyer Road in 5 minutes this time of the year with the roads the way they are, they'll have no equipment on the back of that truck when they get there. They'll have to turn around and pick up before they can start fighting fire. And Adam will already be there putting the fire out.
Barry, this is really entertaining.
when they always maintain it year-round. Because their tax map was wrong, wasn't that wrong. It showed my house, which they wanted to have in Ospey anyway, in Ospey, but the road in Tufton Road. So that hasn't changed. They maintain that summer and winter. And as the dinosaur selectman back here said, that road used to be a T-bone in front of my house. It was very close to my road. The town of Tufton Borough, the select board at the time, Normie Biddum, Billy Rollins, and I can't remember who the other one was. Might have been Lewis, I'm not sure. Came to me and said, would you be willing to do a land swap so we can eliminate that T-bone turn in front of your house? I don't know how many people remember that T-bone turn there. But in the wintertime, cars would come up over the hill, and the town didn't plow Phineas Graves at the time. And they'd come up over the hill in front of my house, and all of a sudden realized there's a 90-degree turn to the left. And most didn't make it, and they'd go. Yeah, I had a little problem on front of the car. Can I do that at 2 o'clock in the morning? Please. I gave the town of Tufton Road that land, the town of Tufton Road, built that section of road, and we did it as a gift to the town of Ospey, and they should show some appreciation.
Go ahead.
I call the question.
All those in favor of calling the question? Thank you. Question is called. All those in favor of Article 7, and I will read the article, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the preparation of Sawyer Road for paving. All those in favor of the article as read, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed, please raise your voting cards. Well, I think I have an opportunity to ask my runners to count. Okay. This will take a moment. All those in favor of Article 7 as read, please raise your voting cards and keep them up.
I was already you counted me. Okay. My arm get tired, but.
You got your. Yeah, everybody's gonna try it. You got the good count.
Oh, you were quick enough, so just making sure. I'm a little slow over that side.
I go in there.
My son next week. When I was in camp, they used to make us hold lamps up at arm's length to see how long we could do it. I'm sort of reminded of that. All those opposed to the preparation of the bid, please raise your voting cards.
Yeah.
Put your hands up. Before the meeting, a very wise and experienced town meeting member asked me what article I thought would take the longest to pass. And I said, whichever has the smallest dollar. Article 7. Thank you. The vote on Article 7, we have 132 yes and 74 no. I declare Article 7 to be passed. Why are you standing?
Jill Cromwell, Milton Village. I would like to make a motion to restrict consideration on all previously passed articles tonight.
We have a motion made and second to restrict reconsideration on all articles that have been acted upon tonight. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, please signify by raising your voting cards. Restricting reconsideration means that it cannot be reconsidered at this meeting. The law says any article can be reconsidered at a subsequent meeting, but not this one. All those opposed to restricting reconsideration? Clearly the ayes have it. We have restricted reconsideration on articles 4 through 7. Thank you. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,551 for the 19 Mile Bay Beach Improvement Project. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and the Budget Committee 5-1. Majority vote is required.
Move the question.
Question is moved, second.
Move the
Jack Whitman, second.
This has to do with the beach area that's a wonderful part of our town. It's been used for a number of years. The state of New Hampshire, first of all, it's been engineered to be regraded so that the water coming off the roads don't go into the lake, pollute the lake. And DES has agreed with a wetlands permit and a shore lands permit, and this is what it will take to follow the engineering guidelines. This is remedial work. Thank you.
Comments or questions? Comments and questions, please, on Article 8. If you have no comments or questions, I will ask for a vote. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,551 for the 19-Mile Bay Beach Improvement Project. Majority vote is required. The number is to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $40,551 for the 19-Mile Bay Beach Improvement Project. All those in favor of the article as read, please raise your voting cards. All those opposed, do so in a like manner. The ayes have it. I declare Article 8 is passed. Article 9. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,870 for a 19-mile brook updated baseline study. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and by the Budget Committee 6-0.
I'll move this warrant article.
Article is moved. Do I have a second?
And I'll speak to it.
Go ahead, Chip.
I know a lot of you came here for the library, and a few of you came here for Sawyer Road, and it's been entertaining. This warrant article actually makes a significant difference. The town of Wolfboro has decided in their wisdom to purchase land in Tuftonboro to modify and increase their rapid infiltration basin to get rid of their septic. It's at the headwaters of the 19-mile brook. It's on top of an aquifer. We did meet with the town of Wolfboro representatives. They're not willing to participate in any water testing, but this is the brook that empties out at the town beach that we just voted to rehabilitate. It's $45,000 and some change to get the study updated from what we had done in 2008, but I can't see that we aren't going to have to do this every year. There's a permit issued to Wolfboro for up to 600,000 gallons a day in injections. That's essentially a 1-inch rain event every 2 or 3 days. So it is going to impact, in no other way but in water, but it also is going to impact as far as whatever chemicals are coming through there or whatever pollutants are coming through. And I think it's absolutely vital that we keep track of this. We are, as a board, I think, in agreement that we're going to, with the help of the planning board, hopefully, bring Wolfboro to task about the processes that they're using. And also, I mean, I look at this as a citizen, and if we have to do this every year for 10 years, it's a fire engine. We've just purchased a fire engine so that we can make sure that Wolfboro is not polluting our town beach and polluting the 19-mile brook. So it's a significant question. It's going to have significant issues. It's going to have some more costs legally, but I don't think that we can just ignore it. So I would certainly hope I have your support.
Dan?
Deciding where we're going to go next. Let's go to Chris. I want to hear from you.
Okay, I'm 100% for this. I mean, I think this is super important. We definitely do not want to have our water contaminated. I'm a little concerned because it should not be our responsibility fiscally, because Wolfboro is atrocious to do what they're doing. But I think we do need an updated baseline. I am 100% in agreement with that. I'm just wondering out loud here if, I know you said you're going to have the planning board and you guys, and you met with town officials and they're not willing to do anything. We have a great legal fund. Maybe you could get an attorney that specializes in these types of issues to maybe help get Wolfboro on board, because I certainly think that everybody would be in agreement here that we don't want our water contaminated. This is a big deal. If something happens bad, it's going to go real bad. This is going to go all the way down into the big lake. Anybody out around Chase Point or anything. And like I said, I think it's a great thing that we're doing to get a baseline, but I think we really need to look at other avenues to make sure that Wolfboro doesn't take advantage of us, and use us as a dumping ground.
I believe that the state regulates up to the high water mark. Everything that comes and goes on Lake Winnipesaukee, and the high water mark is what this will hit at the very end. So why does not the state be responsible for part of mitigating our costs for making sure that the permit that they allow to be issued doesn't pollute the water that goes to everywhere?
I'm absolutely amazed. Since when does a neighboring town stinking up our water, polluting a huge body of water, get away with this in the first place, and then we have to pick up the bill for this? This is absurd. Why haven't we sued them? Why haven't we taken legal action? Why are we doing something that protects and also ensures the fact that we are paying for their stupidity? I'm sorry, but I think Wolfboro, if they could pay $300,000 for toilets, ought to be able to foot this bill as well. I would go for this bill and I would send it to them, and then I'd take it to court. This is crazy. This is really crazy.
Thank you. Gary.
I think I want to echo what's already been said here. I was on the Conservation Commission when the rapid infiltration bed was first proposed and formulated by Wolfboro. And at that time, we were highly suspicious that the plan that they came up with was going to be sustainable. We all feared that there were going to be breakouts, and that once these breakouts were formed, they would only serve the purpose of becoming larger and becoming a quicker transport of surface runoff water down into the unnamed creek, into the 19-mile park. I was part of the effort where we got the initial baseline study done. And I would say very clearly that it has to be done again, and it has to be done in a way that would be a foundation for us to perhaps think about taking some action. Wolfboro's in a tough place. The choices they have are to either bring their treatment level up higher or literally cart the sludge away. And they chose to develop this rapid infiltration bed plan as an alternative, and it has failed. And it's going to get worse, and I think that this is an opportunity to have not only another baseline done, but it should be done on a comparative basis, meaning two columns. One column representing what we saw the last time, and the next column representing where we are today. And that would be perhaps a foundation to go forward.
Thank you.
Larry Gill, Merrill Lake Drive. I'm also on the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission has been working on this for a substantial amount of time. And as Gary James said, it's been working on for more than a decade. This town being concerned about this. It is, what Wolfboro is doing right now is a pilot study to determine the feasibility of being able to use the rapid infiltration basins to get rid of their waste effluent. That's what this is all about. And the state is monitoring this. The concern is, as I think everyone's been already expressed, that is not going back into Wolfboro. That's coming into Tufton. So that's our water. And we do have a leak. The science is complicated. We're trying to work, and we have been working quite well. But in my view, the concern I have is we need to know what's in that water. And that's what we want. That's what my concern, and I think that's what we are trying to work with Wolfboro to accomplish. We've had some successes, we've had some setbacks. There are funds available that they can access, but that's on the Wolfboro side. On our side, this follow-up study will look at what was in the water system in 19 Mile Brook prior to them doing the pilot study. This will look after the pilot studies and looking forward to see if the discharge in these pilot studies has affected either the wildlife or the water quality so that it's detectable. That's not a given. It may not be. They haven't been discharging constantly all over the decade, but it has affected. And they do want to put up the 600,000 gallons if they get the permit. I think that's worth looking at. And I think we should get as much information now while we have it on our side, so it will. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Yes, I have a question for the selectmen, and that is, have we received a legal opinion at this point about our rights and the rights of the aggrieved people on Mirror Lake? I'm on the big lake, and I'm close to Chase Point, so I'm worried about that too. But have we taken the time or spent the money to get a legal opinion about what we can do to Wolfboro? And wouldn't it be a good idea to get that kind of an opinion before we spend $45,000 a year in doing studies, when maybe we need to rifle shoot this towards some specific actions that can be more productive in winning this case, if we do have a case? But it seems to be that we need a lawyer, a legal team to give us that information.
Thank you. And we're working on that. We're in the process of trying to hiring a lawyer who specifically deals with this sort of area. Litigation, I'm certainly well aware of it. I'm certain you are well aware. It takes time. We don't really have the time to waste a year or two to get through Superior Court to get a ruling on whether who's going to pay for this study. If Wolfboro is going to start their process this year, then the $45,000 that we have on this warrant article become mitigated damages. So if Wolfboro is responsible, they're going to pay us back. As far as the legal opinion of what Wolfboro can do in Tuftonboro, that's an open question that's still being worked on, and that's why the planning board has to get involved. This is a change of use. It's already come out of current use, but it's in a low-density residential zone. It needs to be rezoned as industrial. It needs to go through a site plan review. It needs to probably have a performance grant. There are any number of steps along the way. And our meetings with Wolfboro happened this past summer. I think the closing on the property was sometime this fall. So this is a relatively recent event.
I just hear an awful lot of excuses. Why should we be spending money for their problems? Going back to the 40s, there was ample evidence in this state and also federally about polluting waters, from tannery mills to other opportunities for people that do this, that don't. And I don't understand why we're so timid. This should be taken up as a priority. If I vote for this thing now, I'll tell you, it's gonna only be to see a point of action from you selectmen toward getting this thing taken care of. So far, I hear a lot of excuses. Sorry.
I appreciate your apology, but there has been a lot of action. As far as whether or not we can yell and scream and go to Wolfboro Penn or this on the table and actually get a check out of them, I mean, that's a ridiculous proposition. This is a process that's just started. It's going to continue, and I have to, assure everybody in this room that I'm not going to let it lie there dormant and let something bad happen to the town of Tuftonboro.
Without prolonging this any longer, I want to clarify one point. I don't think we need to get a legal opinion as to whether Wolfboro should pay the $45,000 or share in that cost. My recommendation was get a legal opinion about what steps we need to be taking in a targeted way so that we spend our money effectively and are able to bring a cause of action that has a chance of success and stopping this. And it seems to me that would be a wiser expenditure than conducting some studies at this point, at least get some opinions about what we need. So that's my last.
So noted, thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding Article 9? Seeing none, I will reread the article to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,870 for a 19-mile brook updated baseline study. The majority vote is required. All those who are in favor of Article 9 as read, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those opposed? Clearly the ayes have it, and I declare Article 9 is passed. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $124,626 to pay a second installment toward the fire truck acquired in 2018 as approved by voters pursuant to Article 6 of the 2018 town meeting. The principal amount is $107,881, and the interest is $16,745. This 5-year lease agreement contains an escape clause. Majority vote is required. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and recommended by the Budget Committee 6-0. Do I have a motion?
I move Article 10.
Thank you. Bill Robinson.
So this is the second payment of 5 payments on Engine 2, which we voted to enter into a lease purchase agreement for last year.
Questions or comments regarding Article 10? Seeing none, we can move to a vote. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $124,626 and to pay a second installment toward the fire truck acquired in 2018 as approved by voters pursuant to Article 6 of the 2018 town meeting. The principal amount is $107,881 and the interest is $16,745. This 5-year lease agreement contains an escape clause. All those in favor of Article 10 as read, please raise your voting cards. All those opposed? Thank you very much. The article is passed. Article 11. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $89,318 to pay a 4th installment towards the ambulance vehicle and rescue truck acquired in 2016 as approved by voters pursuant to Articles 6 and 7 of the 2016 town meeting. The principal amount is $84,947, and the interest is $4,371. This 5-year lease agreement contains an escape clause. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 7-0.
I move Article 11.
Any comments or questions regarding Article, is it 11? Thank you. Article 11, any comments or questions? If you're ready to vote, I need to read the article again. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $89,318 to pay a fourth installment towards the ambulance vehicle and rescue truck acquired in 2016 as approved by voters pursuant to Articles 6 and 7 of the 2016 town meeting. The principal amount is $84,947, and the interest is $4,371. This 5-year lease agreement contains an escape clause. All those who are in favor of Article 11 as read, please raise your voting cards. All those opposed, the like manner. The ayes have it, and I declare Article 11 is passed. Article 12. To see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further, to raise and appropriate $5,000 to put in that fund. Said sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appreciation left in the fund at year end will lapse into the general fund. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 7-0.
Move the article as read and accept it.
Move we accept the article as read. This is a contingency fund. We legally have to have this. It has to come out of the fund balance. And every year we have a furnace that fails, or a septic system that fails, or the wind takes part of a roof off. This has to be budgeted, and this is the legal way to do it.
Any other comments or questions regarding Article 11? If you're ready to vote, I will read the article. This is Article 12, I apologize. To see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further to raise and appropriate $5,000 to put in the fund. Said sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at year end will lapse into the general fund. All those in favor of Article 12 as read, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Any opposed, signify in a like manner. Article 12 is declared passed. Article 13. To see if the town will vote, Article 13. That's what we're dealing with, Article 13. To see if the town will vote to increase per fiscal year cap established at $5,000 in 2002 to $10,000 for funds generated from the land use change tax collected pursuant to RSA 79-A:25. Article 12 of the 2002 annual meeting allows the Conservation Commission to deposit 50% of the land use change tax received during the fiscal year into the existing conservation fund. The change in the fiscal year cap shall take effect April 1st, 2019, and shall remain in effect until altered or rescinded by a future vote of town meeting. A majority vote is required, and this is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0.
I'll move Article 13.
Second, John.
I'll speak to it.
Chip?
Thanks. Thanks. The land use change tax is taking land out of current use. When the original law was passed, there was included in that a penalty of up to 10% of the market value when the land comes out of current use as a disincentive to take land out of current use, but also to repay the tax payers of the town who's supported the current use program. So if a farmer or a large landowner wanted to put their land in current use, their tax burden would be significantly reduced, and the benefit would be to the town that we'd have more open space. When that land comes out of open space, then the thinking was that the taxes should be repaid in some form. After that happened, sometime in the 90s, I think it was, the conservation commissions in the state decided to try to get the use of some of those funds. We debated this in 2002. The limit was set at $5,000. Last year, we had $50,000 worth of tax penalties on property coming out of current use. The projection this year, I think, is around 20. And the Conservation Commission has petitioned the selectmen to increase the amount of money that they would get up to $10,000 annually. And I guess Steve's going to tell us what they're going to do with all that money.
Steve Wingate?
Steve Wingate, Conservation Commission. Chip said everything, just about everything I was going to say.
Get right up to that microphone.
Okay, I just want to, we work pretty hard to try to maintain the rural character of Tufton Borough, save particular special wildlife habitats. We've been concentrating our time right now up in the Great Meadow area. If you read the Tufton Borough Times, you can see how we've been working on. We currently have, we received $10,000 through the land use change tax over the last 3 years. So 2 years we got something, 1 year we didn't. We had $9,000 that we had been saving up for quite a while still in there, so that's $19,000. Over the last 3 years, we have worked hard to get $149,000 worth of grant funding to purchase 150 acres. So those two things combined is going to add 150 acres to the Great Meadow reservation that we're working on there. A dollar doesn't go quite as far as it did in 2002. And so we're asking for a little more. It's only another 5% of that land use change tax. So it would be, if there is any land use change tax in the year, then we would get 10,000 instead of 5,000. It's kind of like a savings account for us. We don't spend it very often. It's controlled by RSA 36A. We have to follow all the rules. It includes a public hearing, and we're requiring an interest in land, and the selectmen have to agree. So there is oversight there. There is a particular value to having this little savings account. In real estate transactions, you can't always wait a year to get town cooperation, or a couple of years to apply for grant funds. It takes cooperating landowners to get into that situation. Sometimes something special comes up, and you only have a limited time to act. So that's when the conservation fund really comes into effect. It's probably not going to pay for it, but it can at least hold the land interest, or it can start the process with the required appraisals and things like that we have to do. So we're working hard for you. We hope you will let us keep a little more of that mention.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that I think this is a very worthwhile warrant to pass. I think it's a shame that the warrant doesn't provide for up to $10,000 for every parcel. that comes out of current use in the fiscal year. Unfortunately, this is just a cap on the total amount. The Conservation Commission should have this account and it should be well funded, and it makes logical sense that it should be funded from properties that are coming out of current use.
Any other comments or questions regarding Article 13? Article 13, to see if the town will vote to increase the fiscal year cap established at $5,000 in 2002 to $10,000 for funds generated from a land use change tax collected pursuant to RSA 79-A:25. Article 12 of the 2002 annual town meeting allows the Conservation Commission to deposit 50% of the land use change tax received during the fiscal year into the existing conservation fund. The change in the fiscal year cap shall take effect April 1st, 2019, and shall remain in effect until altered or rescinded by a future vote of town meeting. All those who are in favor of Article 13 as read, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you very much. Opposed? The light man. Thank you. The ayes have it. Article 13 is passed. Article 14, to see if the town will vote pursuant to RSA 80:80 to authorize the selectmen to convey real property acquired by the town by tax collector's deed, by public auction and sealed bid, or in such manner as determined by the selectmen as justice may require. Majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0.
I move Article 14.
Comments and questions to Article 14?
So this is an authorization, once again, for the selectmen to sell property that has been taken by tax deed by the town of Tuftonboro. We came to town meeting last year, and a similar article was passed. We sold 8 properties at auction with a sealed bid auction in June of 2018. Those 8 parcels sold for a total sales price of $167,000, which is money that went right back into the general fund. And at least as importantly, that put $400,000 worth of assessed valuation back on the tax rolls. So this year we have at least one tax deed property that we plan to sell. This particular article, as written, will provide us with the authority to sell tax deeded property, and only tax deeded property, until it is rescinded by future town meeting. It's my view that the town should not be in the business of holding on to tax deeded properties, that as we take them by tax deed, that we should expeditiously turn them around, put them on the market, get them back on the tax rolls so somebody else can use them and they can help support the town.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding Article 14? Seeing none, I'll read the article. To see if the town will vote pursuant to RSA 80:80 to authorize the selectmen to convey real property acquired by the town by tax collector's deed, by public auction and sealed bid, or in such manner as determined by the selectmen as justice may require. All those in favor of the article as read, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. All opposed? Signify in a like manner. The ayes clearly have it. Article 14 is declared passed. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee recommended sum of $3,975,307 for general town operations. The selectmen recommended the selectmen recommended $3,982,556. This article does not include any special or individual warrant articles. A majority vote is required, and it was recommended by the Budget Committee 5-1 with 1 abstention. I'll have a motion.
Yeah, I'll move the article.
And I got a second. Second. Any questions or comments regarding Article 15, the town budget? Guy Pike.
Guy Pike Budget Committee. The 2018 winter maintenance line in our budget was overspent by $95,289. So this year, the Selectmen and the Budget Committee raised that amount by $30,600. At the end of February, the winter maintenance line was 78% spent. We've had 2 winter events since then, and certainly the potential to have more in the month of March and sometimes in April, plus November and December. I'd like the Selectmen's assurance that there's enough money elsewhere in the budget just in case this doesn't work out as well as we might plan. Thank you.
And your comment was timely, Guy. I would like to offer an amendment to the budget to increase the total budget to $4,050,307. That's an increase of $75,000 over the Budget Committee recommended amount. As Guy mentioned, and I think we've all experienced, this has been a tough winter. Has required a lot of road maintenance work. As of last week, 90% of the budgeted amount for 2019 in the winter budget has been expended. We know from the recent past that 1/3 of the winter maintenance expense occurs during the second part of the winter, that is from October through December. So adding $75,000 to this amount will restore enough money in the winter maintenance budget that will allow us to avoid cutting important summer maintenance such as roadside mowing, tree removal, crack sealing, and other pavement extending work.
Amendment has been offered. Is there a second? Second. Comments or questions regarding the amendment to Article 15?
Yes, the question is, because there was a misspelling of the original article, that's why you had trouble reading it. It said 3,982,000. It should be 82,000. So does that have to be fixed at all?
I think the town council would agree with me that minor typographical or punctuation errors are not of our concern. She agrees. Any more questions or comments regarding the amendment to Article 15? The amendment to Article 15 would change the amount to raise and appropriate of the general fund of the budget to $4,050,000, an increase of $75,000 over the Budget Committee recommended amount. $4,050,307. This shouldn't be so difficult. All those in favor of the amendment to increase the budget by $75,000, please signify by raising your voting cards. Thank you very much. Excellent. All those opposed, please signify by raising your voting cards. The ayes clearly have it. The article as amended has been amended.
I would like to have it noted that I think Jimmy Bean deserves a little praise from us. I walk quite often down this road on 109A, and a fellow who plows for the state, Joy Perkins' husband, often stops, and I asked him how many times he'd been out this winter with the state. He told me that he'd either been out for plowing or salting 33 times. So I assume that when the state goes out to plow, the town goes out to plow. So that's quite a few times getting up for 20 or 25 hours of whack, keeping the roads open so we can go get our newspaper. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding the amended Article 15? I will read the article as amended. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee recommended sum of $4,050,307 for general town operations. The selectmen recommended $3,982,556. This article does not include any special or individual warrant articles, and as I think you're aware, the base fund has been increased by $75,000 to cover additional winter maintenance. All those in favor of Article 15, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed, please signify in a like manner. Thank you. The article is declared passed. The ayes have it. At this point, I would welcome a motion to dissolve the meeting. Jack Whitmore? Jane McGraw. All those in favor of dissolving this meeting, please indicate by raising your voting cards. The ayes have it. Have a nice night. Thank you very much.